So guys, today we're having a really interesting topic whereby we are looking at the costs when it comes to selling your property, right? Is there such a thing whereby there's hidden costs?
Oh, hidden costs. Man, we love saying that things are hidden, right? Or there is a hidden cost on property, right?
Yeah.
But if we really look at it and we understand what hidden means, it basically means that you do not know about that cost until you have to pay it, and nobody tells you about it, right?
Yeah.
But now, if you really do your proper research and understand that what are you putting yourself into, then that's when you start realizing that these things aren't really hidden. You just have to ask. I mean, now we've been in situations whereby we've asked estate agents that, yo guys, I want to buy this property, but what cost should I be considering before I buy this property, right?
Yeah.
And with estate agents, most of the time they will tell us that you need to make sure that you have transfer costs. You need to make sure that you have a deposit. You need to make sure that you also have a bond registration if you are actually going to be going the bond registration or the bond route.
Yeah. But you know the thing about selling your property, right, is that some of us are looking at it from a perspective whereby maybe let's just say that I bought it for 450,000 and now it's time to sell. So they're looking at it from a perspective whereby I'll be selling for 750,000. So looking at it that way, just playing with my fingers there to get that mathematics correct, man.
Yeah.
So looking at it that way, some people are rather looking at it from a perspective whereby I'll be making 300,000 in profit, of which it's not the way. So we really need to be careful in terms of what are the costs that are associated to selling your property. And in this live, we will be looking at 9 costs, right? In this live, what we will be doing is that we're looking at 9 costs that you should consider when it comes to selling, so that we do not say that there's hidden costs when it comes to selling your property.
So there are really 9 costs that we need to be considering in order for us to actually make sure that 100% we are actually going to buy the property, or we're going to be able to afford the property, right?
We are selling the property. Again, we're looking at it from a seller's perspective.
Or we're looking at it from a seller's perspective.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
no problem
yeah.
then. So now let's look at it from number 1 now. We're talking about the repairing cost.
Yeah.
Now, Neo always says this. Whenever you're going to be buying a property, right? Sometimes it could also be development. But whenever you are buying a property, you need to consider the fact that that property has been standing there for long, or there might be defects on that property. Now the problem is, if you do not consider the defects that might come through with this property, then you are sitting at a loss, right? Now what I'm saying by this is that if you're going to be viewing a property, it's important for you to go with a contractor. You need to understand that which things are you actually going to be needing to fix up, right? So now say for instance, if there is a leakage on the roof, right, or on the ceiling, if you are able to see the spots that there's a leakage over there. Now what you need to do is that you need to come through with a contractor so that they can actually pinpoint what's the cause of that leak. Now if you do not have a contractor to come through and check it out, the problem might be that you can actually say that, no, I'm going to just apply membrane on this particular part and then we won't be having the leak anymore, only to find out that the problem is actually bigger than that membrane. We actually have to adjust the tiles on the ceiling. So these are the things that we really need to consider before we actually buy the property, that once we've bought the property, we know exactly what we're dealing with.
The thing about repairing costs, right? And when I was doing research about this, when we were putting this together in terms of how we're going to present it, is that some people might say, yeah, repairing is just me getting a new bathtub and selling this property. But here's the thing, right, is that we do not consider in terms of, will I get my money back? Because remember, what we're doing with this session is that we are looking at costs associated to selling your property, right, from a seller's perspective. Now, we've seen this a whole lot of times whereby as a seller, you are looking at it in terms of, you know what, I'm about to sell my property, so I just need it to be top notch. So I'm going to get the latest black taps. I'm going to get the latest everything so that it can sell fast. But now my question to you is that, what if, yes, it sells fast, but then you didn't get your money back that you invested? So it does happen whereby, yes, you did put in those aesthetically pleasing chandeliers and you spent a whole lot of money, but then now you didn't get your money back. Because now that question then comes in that when I'm doing renovations, like where is the ceiling? Because that is my property for now. I'm looking at it from a perspective whereby that's my property for now. Now, if it's my property for now, I want to go all out if there is a budget. But now I'm not thinking in a sense whereby what if I do not get my money back?
Now you touched on something that I think we need to dwell on, right? Just for a second.
Yeah.
You touched on, will I get my money back? And now this is a question that we need to really understand before we overlook it, right? Because I think for the most part of it, a lot of people do not consider what will I get my money back means. Now say for instance, if we have a property that's selling for 400,000, right? We can buy it at 400,000 and then resell it for 600,000, right? Now already with this budget, we know that we have, say for instance, if all of our costs would amount to 100,000, we know that we only have 100,000 to use in order for us to fix the property and then resell it. Now, the question of will I get my money back comes to this. If we have already used this 100,000 and now we are starting to say that, no guys, let's put in the Tivoli taps that Noah was talking about. Or rather, let's put in the expensive taps that Noah was actually talking about. Let's put in solar. Let's put in all of these stuff.
Yeah, the latest cameras.
The latest cameras.
Electrical wiring so that you can sell fast.
Yeah, and now you find yourself, instead of spending 100,000, you spend 200,000. Now, with this 200,000 plus the initial 400,000 that you had invested in on this property
that you bought it
at,
yeah,
it will take you to a point whereby now you have overinvested. Now our break-even point is what? Is 600,000. So now if our break-even point is now 600,000 and we needed to sell the property at 600,000, we're already sitting at a problem. So we will not get our money back. That's what Noah was referring to when we're saying that, will you actually get your money back? So what we are basically saying is that when you're buying a property, you need to understand that how much is your profit going to be and how much can you actually use to invest in this property. If that money has already been used up, then we know that we are not going to be doing anything further.
Okay, so that's cost number one, right? Going on to cost number two, guys, remember we did mention that we will be touching base on 9 costs that we need to take into consideration when we are selling the property. So we're only at number 1. Bear with us, guys, bear with us. So number 2, right, we're looking at marketing cost. I'd like to put that also with your agent commission, because it depends about how are you selling your property. And a lot of people are not aware of this, that
Thank you very much.
So when it comes to marketing costs and also agent costs, I want to put this as a bundle, because some people are not aware that you can actually sell your property at an auction. Some people are of the mindset whereby properties that are sold at auctions are only for people that can't afford, of which is false. So now Lebo will then touch base on in terms of how will you be then paying for the marketing costs, versus I will be looking at it from getting an estate agent. So when it comes to getting an estate agent, right, so we're looking at number 2 and 3 together, right? So if I'm looking at selling my property through an estate agent, I need to remember something, right? They will be charging you a percentage on the overall sale of the property. So for easy numbers, can I please get that pen? So for easy numbers, if we are saying that the property that we're selling is 1 million, right? What is 8% of 1 million plus VAT 15%? I knew that you already knew that the 8% is 80,000.
80,000 plus 15,000
so
plus minus 72,000.
So it's 80,000, eh?
Yeah.
Plus the 15,000 if we're saying VAT. Now, if we're looking at this case whereby I was charged 18% and then the 15% was exclusive, we're looking at paying about 95,000, right? So now this needs to be factored in before you even buy the property, because now this will then help you in terms of gauging it, that are we making a profit? Guys, look at it this way. Imagine if you had, with that example that Lebo made, unfortunately, man, it's just that that one is for 600,000. But let's just say that we were owing the estate agent about 50,000 and then we fixed up to 200,000. like there's no ways that we're making our money back. Actually, there's no ways whereby we'll be seeing an ROI. Actually, there's even a possibility that the money that we invested, we might not get it back. Like, that's a reality when it comes to selling your property if you do not understand where you bought it. When I'm saying where you bought it, I'm talking about the price, and you didn't even have that understanding in terms of when I'm doing renovation, what is my ceiling? So if you are just going with the flow will lead you to this position whereby you spent 200,000. Now you're thinking the estate agent is coming back to you saying that, hey Joe, 50,000 commission. Now I'm shocked. I'm like, hey, 50,000 again. Did you know that even as there's a possibility that the agent can make more money than you as the owner if you do not know what you're doing? Like, the agent didn't even have that title deed. The agent wasn't paying the bond. The agent wasn't stressing the tenant. But if you don't know what you're doing, the agent will get more than you.
And V is asking a very good question, that
Sure.
what do you consider as the best commission to as an agent, right? So now what I would say is that this will vary from one situation to another, right?
Yeah.
So some agents will say that, guys, if I'm selling your property, I'm selling it at 8% and I can't negotiate on that.
Yeah.
Now, if they are saying that, then they need to come through with a lot of experience. We need to make sure that the property is selling as quick as possible. If they can guarantee us that we can sell the property within less than 2 months, then that's something that we need to actually be considering. However, if you are able to negotiate well, man, you're able to get around 6.5, but that's not with your proper agents. But even with your proper agents, right, you can actually get to a point whereby you've negotiated to 6.5. But now this will vary on, number one, the relationship, and also we need to understand that what is the situation, because sometimes estate agents would be not more than willing, but they'd be willing to assist you sell your property because you're in distress. So for example, if your property is in a good neighborhood and you are telling them that, guys, you know what, I need to sell my property as soon as possible because I'm owing the bank, and with that I am actually going to be running at a loss, so your money is going to come out from my pocket. Sometimes that could be a conversation that you have with the estate agent in order for you to be able to negotiate that price low. But what I would say is that at least 7%. Negotiate until 7%, guys.
Okay. So Lebo, please take us through the marketing costs when it comes to selling it. Just a rough example in terms of if I'm to sell my property through an auction, how does that go about?
Okay, so with regards to an auction, this would vary from one auctioneer to another.
Yeah.
Right? So now with regards to an auction, what they normally want you to pay for is the advertisement costs. So the advertisement cost will vary from one to another. Some of them would be saying that you need to pay them 10,000 in order for them to advertise your particular property. So this would vary from one auctioneer to another.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that you need to understand the difference between a sheriff auction and a private auction. Right? So your sheriff auction would be the ones whereby these properties are repossessed.
They're not asking you for marketing.
They're not asking you. They're telling you that this property is going to be sold, right?
Yeah.
Then you have your private auctions whereby people that own properties are saying that, hey man, I'm willing to sell my property before I actually go underwater.
Yeah.
So now these would be the ones whereby you'd need to take out some sort of fee in order for them to start marketing your property.
Yeah. So Lebo, with the 10,000 that you mentioned, right? So I'm paying this money before the property is even sold on the auction.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens if it doesn't get sold?
You forfeit it. You forfeit it. Because remember, the reason why they are charging you that 10,000, for example, right, is because they are wanting to market that property, right?
Yeah.
So marketing that property means that they are going to actually be, I'm sure you've seen it, right? Especially around Johannesburg South, you'll see a one placard saying that 5-bedroom apartment is going to go on auction on this particular day.
Yeah.
That's where the costs go.
Yeah.
When the agents have to go meet other people to understand that are they willing to actually buy that property.
Yeah.
That's where that money actually goes. So that 10,000 goes more towards your marketing of your property.
Even when you go to Property 24, I'm sure you guys have noticed whereby, is it POA or is it
POA?
POA, whereby properties they're at auction. So what happens is that auctioneer will then buy ads on that property so that it shows number one. So for instance, let's say that property is in Glen Vista. So what will then happen is that agency would have bought ads on your property, and then it would be showing number one on that list. So in that way, and I even saw something quite interesting. Even when you go to page number 2, it still shows that property is number one.
Yeah.
Page number 3, it still shows that property is number one.
So now how you actually recognize if this property, the ads were bought on it, is if it's written sponsored. You know, like how you have in social media whereby top bottom, the bottom left, right, where it's written sponsored. That's the same case that would actually happen when you're looking at a property, that on property 24 or private property it would be written sponsored, which ultimately means that the person actually bought ads on that property so that it comes out first when searching in that area.
Guys, we're getting there right now. Right now we're at number 4, right? Looking at now the conveyancer fee. So number 4 being conveyancer fee. Remember guys, we said that with this video what we are doing is that we are listing 9 expenses that you should be taking into consideration when it comes to selling your property. So there are no hidden costs when it comes to selling property. It's just that as people, we're not aware of these costs. So what we're doing for you in this video, we are listing all of these expenses so that you guys don't get the shock of your life when it comes to selling your property. You know how sad it is, bro, that whereby it's that example whereby in your mind you had that thing whereby I'm selling my property for 600,000. I bought it for 400,000. In my mind, it's a no-brainer. I should be making profit. So as soon as now all of these expenses come, I'm like asking myself, where are these things coming from? Am I being scammed or what? You're not being scammed. Like as sellers, we need to understand the game so that by the time it comes to selling, you're already well aware that these are the expenses that I should take into consideration. So number 4, we are halfway there, guys. Conveyancer fees. So when we're speaking about conveyancer fees, we are talking about paying your lawyer, right? But now remember something, right? In a case whereby you are selling your property, it's the buyer that has to be paying, right, transfer costs. But now there's a certain conveyancer fee that you should be paying, because if you took it via bond, what happens is that now we need to then close, but that's bond cancellation. That's bond cancellation. So I guess when we're speaking about conveyancer fee, it was coming from a perspective whereby, remember something, when it comes to selling your property, you are selling it, so you are the buyer and then you are the seller, and then there's a buyer. So remember, it has to be transferred from your name to the new person's name. And the person who's responsible for this, guys, please tell me in this comment section. I want you to understand. I want to see that we are all on one page, guys. Who do you think is responsible for paying transfer costs? So the property was Neo's, and then Lebo bought it from Neo. Now there needs to be transfer cost. We mentioned that transfer cost is from moving it from Neo's name to Lebo's name. So who's going to be responsible for buying this?
Buyer.
The same buyer.
Yeah. Money saying buyer. Money saying buyer.
Okay. I'm happy that nobody's saying seller. I was just waiting for that person to say seller. I'll invite you now and say, yay! Where did you get that?
Lebo must pay.
That's it.
Yeah. So now I think this is something that we all need to understand, right? Especially for people that didn't know. If you are going to be buying a property, right, you as the buyer are the one that wants your property to be, I think this is the logic behind it. As the buyer, I want the property to be registered into my name. Therefore, I need to pay for that transaction to actually happen. So even with the next person coming through, they are the ones that needs to pay for that transfer cost. Now, when you are, I want us to look at it from this perspective, right? I want us to look at it from this perspective. If we are looking at a transfer of property, we need to understand that how many lawyers are involved in transferring the property, right? We have 3 lawyers that are involved. It would be the bond registration.
In the whole process. Yeah. The whole process of property.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of like the property property transfer. Yeah.
The sale.
So now we have 3 attorneys. If the property is actually bought via bond, we have 3 attorneys. We have the bond registration attorney, we have the bond cancellation attorney, and then we also have the transferring attorney. 3 of them, they all work for different things. I mean, how the system was actually used, how the system was actually done, man, it was done in a way whereby it is very strategic for attorneys, right? So now, bond registration would be the guy that would be responsible to register the bond with the bank. So say for instance, if today I want to take out a bond with the Blue Bank, right? I do not go directly to the branch and say that I want to sign my papers here. It doesn't happen like that. So the Blue Bank would assign an attorney so that that attorney would be the one that will transfer the property into the, will register the loan into my name, right? So I'm buying a property, I want to register a bond under the Blue Bank. So the Blue Bank would be the one that would say that, okay, please go to Neo's attorney, the conveyancers by Neo. They are the ones that are going to register the bond, right? Then you have the transferring attorney. Transferring attorney is the one that is going to oversee all of these attorneys. So what they are responsible for doing is that they are going to be transferring the property from the previous owner into the new owner, right? Now they will be the one that will be talking directly with the attorneys that are appointed by these banks.
Yeah.
Are we still together?
Yeah.
Now we have the last one, which is the bond cancellation attorney. Bond cancellation attorney is, for instance, if I bought my property under a bond, right, and I still am owing, right, what would then happen is that I would have to call the bank first. Now this is where a lot of people make mistake. Whenever you're going to be selling a property, guys, I really want you to be concentrating on this one, né? So whenever you buy a property or whenever you sell a property, by the time you put it on property 24 or private property or call any estate agent to come through to list the property for you, what you need to do is to call your bank first. Call your bank first and tell them that I am going to be selling my property. Now, if you do not tell your bank that you are going to be selling your property, you might need to pay a penalty.
Okay.
Right?
So
yeah.
I think you've jumped onto the next point, but at least you've.
Okay.
So it's fine. It's fine. What you did, you can continue with that. It's conveyancer fee, it's bond cancellation, and then it's also that penalty fee.
Yeah,
it's good, man. Continue with it.
Because it's still under bond cancellation.
Yeah, continue with it. That's why
so when you're looking at that particular point, we need to understand that if we do not tell the bank that we want to cancel our bond, we are going to be faced with penalties. I do not want you to pay penalties. So you need to tell the bank before you actually tell your agent that I'm actually going to be selling my property.
Yeah.
Now, once you've told the bank, you then only pay the bond cancellation. So bond cancellation just says that the attorney will be appointed by the bank, right? So say for instance, I bought the property is with the Blue Bank, and now I want to resell my property. I need to tell the Blue Bank that I'm going to be cancelling that property. The Blue Bank will appoint an attorney so that I am able to actually cancel that particular bond.
Sure. And then there's interest. You know, a lot of people they're crying that, why must the bank charge me interest? Because already, let's just say cancellation, bank shayile kadana. So bank shayile cancellation, and now I'm also taking all of these 9 aspects into consideration, and then the bank comes back and then they tell me that they're going to be charging me interest. Remember something, the relationship or the contract that you signed with the bank, you told them that we're going to be in this relationship for 20 years. Now, the bank calculated already on their spreadsheet that they're going to be seeing you for the next 20 years. So now all of a sudden...
You already budgeted with your mind. It's like budgeting with someone's mind, yeah.
So according to them, guys, is that they already had that mindset that 20 years, so for slasha. Now you are coming up after my 2 years saying that, hey, no, I lived in that house that you borrowed me that money and I want out. Now let's be honest, guys. Right? You're looking at it from a perspective whereby you're borrowed money. Now they thought that they will be getting interest for those years. Now it can happen whereby you will not pay interest. Because remember now that total, and it does happen whereby, let's just say that you bought it for 600,000 and then you notice that on year 20 you would have paid back, let's just say 1.2 or 1.4 million. Right. All of a sudden, if I'm saying that I want to cut this relationship, remember it's not the bank saying that they want to cut, it is you saying that you want to cut this relationship after year 2. So now of course the banks, guys, look at it this way. And that's why I'm not against banks, Lebo. I love banks.
Not against banks.
I'm not against banks. The reason why I'm not against banks is that as an entrepreneur, I'm studying them. I'm understanding what is important from a bank's perspective in terms of if I'm to give out this loan, how am I benefiting? Now, what happens is that as soon as you understand how banks operate, is that you can take those principles and apply them in your business. Bank doesn't play when it comes to interest rates. Bank doesn't play when it comes to a strict business model in terms of if I'm borrowing this person, how should they pay me back? That's why when you're seeing how they run, they are well oiled. So we need to be taking these principles into consideration that, and if we are being honest, if they borrowed us that 600,000, then after 2 years we are saying that we want to return the 600,000 into 600,000. Now let's look at it from their perspective, guys.
Where's the business model?
Where's the business model there? Banks are not in the business of owning properties. Hence, even with a bank, you should notice this, right? They'll call you like 2 years ago, trying to avoid having their property under their belt. Banks are not in the business of owning properties. They're not waiting to repossess your property. Hence, a bank will sometimes even say that, you know what, if it's 600 and we'll be putting it under easy sale, you might find out sometimes they even sell it for 500,000. Because banks are in the business of making money and circulating money. So ultimately, you will be paying this. This one goes without saying. You will be paying interest. And there's a special way whereby they calculate that interest in terms of looking at how long you've held on to it and how long you still have left. But it's not going to be something whereby it's crazy like, you must give us 400,000. It doesn't work that way. So when it comes to if there's early cancellation, you will be paying that interest for cancelling.
So now here's a good question, right?
Yeah.
By Specific, right?
Yeah.
Specifically saying that do banks have a responsibility to protect buyers? So specifically saying that do banks have the responsibility to protect buyers so that they do not overprice the properties, right? I love this question, right? I love this question. I love them so much, bro. I love this question so much. Now,
but we're deviating a bit, but
no, it's still under banks.
But it's right now we're looking at number 9 things, but it's okay.
Okay, let's look at this one, right? So now, if you look at property 24, right? Let's just recap on what Neo was saying. The bank is in business, right? They're in the business of borrowing money. So if I'm borrowing you money, I want it to come with interest, right? So now if I'm going to be borrowing you money and I'm a big institution, I need to understand that if I'm going to borrow you money, what is the risk that I'm incurring, right? So now understanding the risk that I'm going to be incurring when I borrow you this money, that means that I need to go to the property and see if the property is actually there, right? Now, let's look at that case whereby the property is overpriced. Now, we're saying that the property, it's worth 500,000, right? But now we are going to the bank and saying that we want 800,000. We want to finance this property for 800,000. Let's say we didn't know the value of this property, but now they are saying that this property is valued at 800,000.
Can you please repeat that? Right? You are saying that
the value of the property is 500,000.
Okay.
Now I signed an offer saying that I want to buy this property for 800,000. Now already we can see that the value of the property is more than 300,000, which we could say now it's overpriced.
Okay.
What the bank will do is that they will send people to that property to see that why is this property actually rated or valued at 800,000. Now when the banks go to this property and see that this property is actually not worth 800,000, it's worth 500,000, chances are the bank will actually decline this. We've seen so many properties whereby the property was actually built really nice, however in an area that is not really nice. Now what happened in this case is that the banks rejected the property at the price that the owner wanted. So now this ultimately meant that that person needed to decrease their prices so that it can actually be in market value.
Yeah. So going back, guys, let me stole my show. When it comes to compliance costs, like a lot of people are not aware that there's compliance costs. And when we're talking about compliance costs, remember, if you have an electrical fence, that's a compliance. That's
compliant.
You need to be compliant.
Yeah.
When I have gas stove, I need to be compliant. So what compliance means in this case is that I need a certificate from an electrical company that's registered that will be saying that, you know what, we did check that the electrical wiring, we did check even inside the house that everything is compliant. And sometimes it can get up to about 2,500. So imagine this, look at it this way. Imagine I'm selling my property and I didn't have cash. The reason why I was selling it is because I don't have cash at all. Now I find out that I've got gas, I find out that I've got electrical, and I also have that electrical
sometimes even solar.
Even solar. Now you finding yourself in a situation whereby you need all of these certificates, and if I don't have the budget, it's a bit of a problem. I remember a risk that Lewu took. A risk that Lewu took. What happened with this property is that as we liked it, it was way below market value. We knew that this one makes sense. This one fits our criteria. There was no way whereby we were not getting that property. Now the owner didn't care. The owner was prolonging the whole shandies, guys. I think it took about 9 months just for that property to be transferred to Lewu's name. Now we are getting impatient because we've already paid the 2 attorneys.
Yeah.
We've already paid the 2 attorneys. We're impatient, and then we asked the attorney, what's the hold up? The attorney was like, hey guys, we're still waiting for the electrical compliance. That guy hasn't paid this. So what Lewu then did is that we spoke to Sispet. So Sispet, everybody that knows us, they know that Sispet is our lawyer, right? Sispet helps us with everything legal, man. So what happened is that Lewu was like, Sispet, we've got a challenge. We want that property, and the only thing that's stopping the whole process from closing is that certificate. So Sispet was like, gents, you guys know the risk. We knew the risk. So what then happened, we're like, you know what, we'll get our guys, they'll go there, they'll get that certificate, we will pay for it. And now remember, now we are the buyers in this case, we are not the sellers. So the person who's responsible for these electrical, gas, and Lewu did mention now solar, it's the seller who's responsible for that. So we took that risk whereby we were like, you know what, man, pay, and then we'll see later on. But at least this guy didn't run away, man, because it would have been bad.
So now looking at it, the next one, right? This is a one whereby a lot of people like running away from, and we think that we don't pay this in our area. But the only time you realize that you needed to pay this is when you sell your property. Now, this is rates and taxes and also a levy.
So we're at number 7.
We're at number 7.
We're at number 7. We're almost there. We're almost there.
So now, this is where a lot of people think that I'm going to run away from this, but it only comes back once they need to sell the property. Now, we've been in situations whereby some people are owing 100,000 in their rates and taxes. Because remember, if you are paying the rates and taxes directly to the municipal and rates the lights, right, that you're using, it's still conventional and it's not prepaid. You do not understand how much you're going to be paying on a monthly basis, especially if you don't pay your rates and taxes. So now what ends up happening is that you leave the geyser on, because it's cold, you switch on the stove, you put it on 6. So 4 plate, it's on 6 now. Now the house is becoming warm, yes, that's correct, right? But now we are not understanding the implications of the electricity that we are using.
Yeah.
Then it comes to water. We are leaving that tap to actually leak. There's a tap leak. That tap has been leaking for the past 6 years, right? Now you get to a point whereby you need to sell your property. Now when you want to sell your property, now the question would then be that how much are you owing on your rates and taxes? Now, if you're owing 100,000 on your rates and taxes, or if you're owing anything on your rates and taxes, property cannot be transferred into the next person's name until you get a clearance certificate. Clearance certificate basically means that you are saying, or the municipal is actually saying that this person is in good standing and they are not owing anything to the municipal. Now picture this. What if you did not have that 100,000 when you are selling that property? Then the question is that how do we work around that? So now this means that the conveyancer would have to somehow find someone that has something that's called a bridging finance. So bridging finance basically means that the property is about to get transferred. However, we just need money to get the clearance certificate. Now, someone will say that, yeah, let's just get bridging finance and then we'll all be okay. Now, the interest that is incurred on the bridging finance, that's where the problem becomes. Because interest on bridging finance is really a lot, guys.
Is it charged per day?
It's charged, depends. Some of them charge per week. Therefore, what would then happen is that the attorney would wait for this to be like the last step that they do, so that it doesn't really take that long in order for the property to be transferred into the next person. Sometimes it does take a month. They say that for every month we're going to be charging you X amount of money, looking at that bridging finance. So looking at that particular point, guys, let's make sure that we are getting our rates and taxes. Or if you are planning on selling your property right now, check your rates and taxes statement and understand that how much are you owing. If you are owing 100,000, make sure that you pay as much as possible so that by the time you sell the property, you are able to actually squash that amount. Then the other one is if your property is in a complex or if your property is in an estate, there's also a levy statement that we need to be getting from the body corporate.
You know, I just remembered right now during the weekend level. I didn't tell you because you're working hard, bro. So what happened is that I was having a conversation with one of our clients, and he's like, "Gents, I love the property. So there's a property that we were scared with, that we're looking at. It has about 6 tenants there. Beautiful, beautiful. The numbers make sense.
Okay, 6 tenants.
6 tenants, and then it was listed for about 1.9 million, and then we then put in an offer for 1.6.
1.9.
Yeah, it was listed for 1.9.
Okay.
We put in an offer for 1.6, and then the owner was happy for us to go through. But now, this is what we're discussing now, guys. We're discussing real things, man.
Real life things.
Real estate, man.
Now, can I just hop in just a second, right?
Sure.
Guys, if you're really interested with real estate or making sure that you're buying the right property for you, make sure that you buy our tickets, right? Because we're hosting a property investing workshop whereby we will be talking about the practical stuff. Like as we're speaking right now, imagine this is a live. What would then happen more in person, right? So now we're going to be talking about real estate, how to position yourself better as a property investor or as someone that is actually going to be purchasing a property. We will be having a conveyancer that will be coming and talking to us about what to look for on a contract or on an offer to purchase. And then we'll also be having the guys from Lightstone. So if you are a property investor or you have been dealing with property, you understand the power of Lightstone. So Lightstone will be the one that will tell you that how much did properties sell for in that particular area and more. So for more information, you can actually buy our ticket. Head over to Google, just search property investing workshop, no wealth. You'll get your tickets at Quicket. Or if you want to get your ticket right now, you can hit the link on our bio, the highlighted one. It's in bold. Just click it and then you can buy your ticket.
I mean, ticket is only going for $550, and then for 2 days it's gonna be $900, man. And this is what I'm really excited about, right, Lewis? That this workshop is not gonna be like any other workshops that we've hosted before. We are actually lobbying some of the investors that we've been with. They've taken our mentorship program and they invested this year. So they will be discussing, this is what I want, this is what we'll be asking them to do. They will be discussing their deals. So one guy is actually in the commercial space. I'm really hoping that they will be available for the 7th. They are in the commercial space, so they will be speaking about more of commercial. And then we also have a lady who is into Airbnb. You guys, she's only 25. You know, when the lady reached out to us, like, "Gents, I'm really scared about this. Man, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to look." We told her that, you know what? You do not have to stress. We have paid school fees. We've done mistakes. As if you go to our YouTube channel, you just listen to our content, you'll realize that these guys have paid the amount. Like, there's no need for you guys to be making mistakes, if I'm truly being honest. So please make sure that you are with us both days, the 7th and the 8th. And I don't know, Lewu, can we say that we'll be celebrating your birthday because your birthday is on the 5th with content? Because Lewu's that guy where I'm like, "Fana, I'm going to put a crown on your head, we'll buy balloons there and say that we're celebrating your birthday." He's like, let's push, man. So this is how then we'll be celebrating your birthday, guys, is that we will be there in Midrand. It's 5 minutes away from Mall of Africa. we will be sharing so much value. Trust me that it won't be the same. It will not be the same. So as I was saying, right, with that example, for 1.9, we managed to get it at 1.6, right? And then the thing is, right now, there's a challenge. The transfer doesn't want to go through. And the challenge is one, is that...
What do you mean that the transfer doesn't want to go through?
So looking at the factors in terms of what is needed for a property to actually be transferred, there's one factor that's stopping this transfer from going through. They have the municipal plans that's approved. However, what they don't have is the changes inside of the house. Hence, myself and Lebo guys, we said, but you know, it's actually, as I don't know, I don't know when our content will go viral, because what we speak about is it's facts, and a lot of our people are doing these mistakes. I see so many people whereby they're building 20 units, they're building 40 units without including the municipal. Yes, it's your money, you worked hard for it for 20 years or for 40 years. But now if you don't know in terms of what is required when it comes to property investing, or what is required before you do any adjustment, ultimately you are risking yourself. Imagine working for 50 years as an accountant. The phone is about to die and the level is rescuing us. Imagine working for 50 years as an accountant, and then you get your retirement package, you build those 20 units without approved plans. Yes, it was your money at that point in time, but the day the municipal comes back to you, you're gonna feel it. There's a video whereby we released, and even in our lives, whereby myself and Lebo were saying, especially when you're looking at township, is that one day we're gonna get to a stage whereby it's gonna be very difficult for properties to be sold in South Africa. Because what we're doing is that I just build. If I want 40 units, nobody's gonna tell me. Even if I don't have those approved plans by the municipal, like I'm asking myself, oh, that municipal takes too long, or that municipal is going to want 150,000. But then now you're forgetting something, that there's going to be one day whereby, if whether the municipal is going to come to you, or if they don't come, it's fine, whereby that one day, whereby you are saying that, you know what, I want to sell this property. Or it might not be you. It might be your kids saying that they want to sell the property. So let's say that my kids want to sell the property. Yes, it had 40 units, but it wasn't approved. That transfer is not going to go through. As not having plans is one of the factors that stop transactions from going through. So can we please be careful when it comes to the money that we're using? Hence I'm saying that, guys, with such just this one point that we made, it's gonna save a whole lot of people. Yes, I still understand some people will be like, it's my money, Joe. If I want to build 40 units, I'll build it. Build it, but also understand that when it comes to selling, Ziokhana, when it comes to selling and then the municipal is saying that, we were not informed. Don't now cry and say, Uti, this South African laws, you knew very well because you were on that live, we saw you, we saw your name, and we did speak about this. So there's so many things when it comes to property that we need to be aware of that we are doing wrong. And for me, it pains me because our people have worked hard. Hence I'm saying that we're looking at our parents working in bank facilities for 60 years. You're getting that paycheck and then you're buying something. Remember something, right? Is that and this is also another thing that happened, that when you're buying on personal capacity via cash, nobody's going to tell you anything in terms of are they approved plans or are they no approved plans. But remember now, when I'm buying via the bank is going to send their evaluator, and that evaluator has that checklist. So ultimately in these workshops that we're hosting, we are trying to understand that what are the big boys and the big girls doing that we need to know so that we avoid making these mistakes. I'm tired of these conversations whereby I still remember, even with my uncle, is like, do you want to make money, more property? I'm like, sure, uncle. That's why, sorry about that, guys. We are fixing the charger situation. Sure. I remember there was one time whereby I sat down with uncle and then need to move to the left a bit. I remember I sat down with my other uncle and then he was like, no, Chana, you know what? Just build. Sorry about that. So it was a situation whereby I sat down with our uncle. He's like, Chance, there was a property that we had. It had about 1,400 meters squared. Like, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot of space. So he was like, just build 4 units at the back and then you'll see that you'll make your money. you'll make your money. But now let me I asked him this question, Jorge, what is my return on investment if I'm building those 4 units? He didn't have an answer to that. Like, we are investing, hence when I said that we work just like banks in terms of, if the bank is borrowing you X amount, what's the interest? Why would the bank say that with this individual we're charging him interest 11.70%, but this guy we're charging him 11.50%? Like, you need to be understanding in terms of the business model of property itself. So with that one, that in conclusion, when it comes to compliance, I was saying that it's not only the building itself outside that has to be according to the municipal's bylaws, it's also what's happening inside the property. So with that, gent, what's happening is that there were amendments outside. Yes, it was on board, but inside the amendments weren't correct. So what this means is that we have to get the correct papers now for the inside. Guess how much is it going to cost him?
How much?
Guess. Guess how much is it going to cost our client?
Should I guess?
You know, man. Guess how much is it going to cost our client, guys, for the amendments for inside? Because we got those quotations. 70K. You can see, that's the thing about property, bro. This is a big boys league.
Not losing 70 rand. 2,000.
2,000.
30.
100. Close to 100 is close. They said 150, bro.
150.
They said 150. So now our counter was that, okay, it's fine. If you are saying 150, here's what we want. Now the question is, does the owner have the 150? So what we then said, no, from the 1.6, let's go down if you don't have it. Because now, if we will be finding another bank that will take it without those papers, and then now we're finding ourselves in the situations whereby, look at it this way again. Let's just say that it's this one bank that's fussy about this compliance. What happens after 5 years if all of them now start being fussy? Because that agent said that, no, don't worry, I know this bank, I won't say which bank it is. We both know wearing their colors. So that's a tip. So here's the thing, the agent said, don't worry, I know other banks that will accept it. Right? Then the gent went without asking me, okay, because he wanted that property. So he did go to the other banks. He came back to me, he's like, Mpetu, let's leave that bank because these other banks said that it's okay. But my question to you is that after 4 years, all of these banks now start saying that this compliance is a need. What then? You paid 1.6. The risk that I'll take is, let's go down to 200. Buy it at 1.4. Negotiate like a pro.
I think that's the main thing about negotiating, right? When you negotiate, you need to negotiate on facts that are there, right? Now, say for instance, we are looking at this property, we had signed an offer of 1.6 million, right? And now this 1.6 million was on the basis that the property is as is and there are plans to this property, right? Now, if someone is coming back, or if the bank is coming back and saying that the plans for inside of the property, they are not good. Now, this ultimately means that on our side, this is going against what we had actually negotiated based on, which will ultimately mean that this price has to actually go down. So now, this is another example of this would be a situation whereby someone is saying that, oh, you're selling your property at 1.9 million. Cool, I'll buy it at 1.9 million if everything is okay. But if everything is not okay, then I need to minus from this 1.9 million.
Sure.
So now from 1.9 million, we're looking at if I need to fix the whole roof again, I'll minus from the 1.9. If I need to do this, I need to minus from that 1.9. So the same, like what Neo has actually given us, the example that Neo has just given us right now, the 1.6 million. We had agreed on 1.6 million. However, I thought that you had approved plans for the property, right? For both inside and outside of the property. Now that you don't have approved plans of the inside of the property, then we need to go and negotiate on this 1.6 million. Now, if we're going to be negotiating on this 1.6 million, depending on the owner, does the owner have the 150 to actually get the approved plans? If not, then that would have to actually come out from our pocket, which will mean or ultimately mean that this price of 1.6 million needs to actually go down. Hence, Neo is saying that it's the 150 plus the interest here, 50,000 to make it 200,000.
I think I'm going to be a cool uncle when it comes to negotiating.